If you want to impress your friends and family with something special, then you have to try making a soufflé. It's a favorite of mine, especially for a fall dinner. It's fluffy and light, yet rich and cheesy at the same time. And it's really all about the technique. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. Now, making a cheese soufflé starts with making a roux, a savory preparation, something you would make for, say, if you were making a cheese sauce. So over here at the stove, I'm going to melt 5 tablespoons of butter in a saucepan. You can do this sauce preparation over medium heat. As a general rule, I like to have all the elements ready and on hand. That way you don't have to leave. You don't want to end up with a lumpy sauce base for your soufflé. Now that my butter is almost melted, I can add my 5 tablespoons of flour. This style of roux is thinner, meaning it's easy to stir, easy to handle. You won't get as many lumps in your sauce, and really it adds a buttery richness to the soufflé. So now I want to keep stirring the roux constantly as I'm cooking it. This only takes about 3 to 4 minutes, but on medium heat, you want to pay attention not to how it looks, but how it smells. The aroma of the roux changes. At first, it smells like butter, but then within 2 minutes, it starts smelling like lightly toasted almonds. By 3 to 4 minutes, you can smell that lightly toasted almond effect and you know that your roux is cooked. Essentially, you have to cook out the flour. So now I can whisk in my milk and my cream. I'll start with the milk, and I whisk in half of it first because that's really the important point. Whisk really quickly, and that way you won't have any lumps. Before it's had a chance to thicken up, you add your remaining milk, whisk that in, and then you can add the cream. Still on medium heat, you want to bring this up while whisking constantly until it thickens. You'll see bubbles break through the surface. See how it thickens? Essentially, this is a bechamel sauce. Just before it starts to thicken, I will add my seasoning. Adding a little nutmeg is classic. Just the aroma of the nutmeg pervades the cheese soufflé in just the slightest amount. It really balances out the flavor. And I'll add my salt and pepper. Now that the sauce has thickened, I'll take it off the heat. After the sauce comes off the heat, you want to transfer it to a bowl. That way it has a chance to cool down. Believe it or not, you don't want to melt the cheese into the sauce. So let me take a minute and talk about getting your soufflé dish ready. This is a 5 1/4 cup soufflé dish. You want to get your soufflé dish ready before you start whipping your egg whites. The first thing to do is rub the inside of the soufflé dish completely with butter, even right up to the upper lip. After you've greased the dish in butter, you want to coat the soufflé dish in grated Parmesan cheese. This prevents the soufflé from sticking and also gives it something to grip onto as it climbs, rising in the oven as it bakes. The last step is to give your soufflé dish a nice little collar. You take parchment paper, it can be 1 sheet or 2, and you want to wrap it around the soufflé dish a good 2 to 3 inches above the dish. You tie it on with butcher's twine. This will help coax a nice straight rise to your soufflé as it bakes. Now that the sauce base has had a chance to cool, it's time to add the cheeses. And even though Emmental cheese, a Swiss style of cheese, is the dominant flavor of a cheese soufflé, you really need some Parmesan cheese to give that soufflé a good background cheesy kick. So I add 3/4 of a cup, or 75 grams of finely grated Parmesan, and I'll stir that in. And you can see clearly that the cheese is not melting into the sauce. And now I'll add 75 grams of grated Swiss Emmental. That's for the cheesy stretch. Okay. And I've already separated my 6 eggs. My 6 egg whites are in the mixer, ready to go, but I'm going to add the 6 yolks to this sauce base. Now, what I've just done is the most time-consuming part of making a soufflé. So if you're planning this for a dinner party, you can make the sauce base, cool it, add the cheese, get your soufflé dish ready, add your egg yolks. Now set this aside. You do want to hold it at room temperature, don't let it get cold, until it's time to actually assemble and bake the soufflé. So you need to budget 40 minutes of bake time. That's how you want to plan. So you have your base ready, your dish ready, and now it's time to whip your egg whites with nothing else added to a medium peak, not a stiff peak. You want to leave room for those egg whites to grow in the oven. What's interesting about whipping egg whites without added sugar is they whip a lot faster, so do not step away. Honestly, you'll have these whipped in under 3 minutes. Now it's time to fold the whites into the soufflé base. I'll first add a third, and I'll fold that in. You really pull that heavy sauce base from the bottom and fold it over the egg whites. You can really see that ribbon of egg whites as you're folding. And it's better to go faster and a little more vigorously than to be too slow and delicate about it. Time is the enemy when you're folding in egg whites. I'm ready to add the remaining whites, and it's okay that you see some streaks of egg whites still in the base. After all, I have another opportunity to fold them in. And this one, I work a little faster, but the base is lighter because of that first addition. So it really does happen quite quickly. You may find at this point the soufflé mixture is actually quite fluid, and you can half pour, half scrape it into your soufflé dish. But now you have to bake it right away. The soufflé takes 40 minutes to bake, and do not be tempted to open the oven door until at least 30 minutes. You can take a peek if you want through the window, but don't open the oven door. Make sure you have everyone gathered around, because when it's ready, it's ready. And here it is. Look at that volume. Just from a few eggs and a little bit of cheese. I love it. And it smells so good in here. I do like a soufflé that gets a bit of a crust to it. Not too much, just a bit of one. Just as a note, your soufflé will start sinking in about 5 minutes. That's your buffer time. And when you scoop in, the goal, fingers crossed, is you find a bit of a cheesy sauce in the center. And there it is, that slight liquidy center to the soufflé. It's like a built-in sauce. I love a cheese soufflé. It's warm, it's rich and cheesy, yet fluffy and light at the same time. It really is a perfect dish to make during the fall. No wonder it's a favorite of mine. And I hope this recipe becomes a favorite of yours.